Hi, I'm Mack, and I'm on a mission to see the hurting get healed and the healed go out and heal others, in order for all of us to experience the true love and light we desire. This podcast is me sharing my journey with you, so you don't feel alone in your journey. Welcome to the Golden Rule Revolution. Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome to another episode of the Golden Rule Revolution, where inspiration and purpose come from treating people like people and nothing less. I'm Mack. Thank you for joining. As you can see behind me, my gallery wall is empty because we're leaving. We are moving to the great state of Texas. This area has just become unlivable for our family in many ways, many regards, and many respects. And we are moving. So next time you see me on camera will be a different location. Very excited about it. A lot of cool things. There's a podcast studio that we're building down there. There's a lot of cool things happening. So get ready for that. I'm excited about it. That said, brothers and sisters, today I got a really amazing episode. So over the past 18 months, I'm sure all of us have woken up to deeper and deeper truths about this matrix reality. And I'm sure you have a really cool story if I was to ask you what your story of awakening is. And today we get to hear from Jami Vezina, who had her own awakening. And it's quite a story. And it's really fun to hear these stories, know that we're not alone, and then realize that we can support other people who are going through the same awakening process, because people are waking up every single day all around the world. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. This dear sister is powerful. She is a yoga instructor. She has online courses you're going to hear at the end, and she actually gives everyone a discount offer from listening to this podcast. So enjoy, everyone. All right, my dear sister. Well, thank you so much. And like I said, everyone, Jami found me through Busy Gold's episode that we did together. And then we had the pleasure of connecting. I'm so glad you're coming on, and I can't wait to hear your story. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm honored to be here. I'm looking forward to sharing my story with everybody, and yeah, just looking forward to this.
I love it. You know, we were talking before we recorded just how when you step out and start to speak your truth and it doesn't align with the masses or certain communities' points of view, first of all, it's incredibly courageous, but we can all be ostracized, or we can be, excommunicated from the groups. And it's such a funny thing because they think they're indicting us, but
right.
Really the indictment's on themselves for the hypocrisy that they profess to be loving. They profess to be all inclusive. They profess this stuff, but their actions don't align.
Well, and that's one of the things that made me just kind of step back, because I've always been the type of person, and it's funny because this podcast is called the Golden Rule Revolution. I was raised by the Golden Rule. You treat people how you want to be treated. It doesn't matter what they think or what they believe. Yeah. And so when I did kind of speak my mind, and I had all this pushback, and I had, I'm a yoga instructor. I've taught yoga for a very long time. I shared sacred space with a lot of wonderful women, and to have them know me and then say, you're disgusting, like I will never support you again. And it was just like, wait a second, I'm not a different person. Like I'm not a different person than who I was, before I started speaking my mind. And it just made me step back, and it makes you reevaluate the people around you, how you live your life, what you're doing within your life. And the biggest thing I think I learned through all of that is that it's not your responsibility if your words trigger somebody else. Like people's triggers are their own responsibility, and you can't be responsible for how you make other people feel. Right. And you have to just speak your truth no matter what.
That's right. Well, walk us through your journey of, go back as far as you want to even how you got into yoga practice and started leading, and then how you started to awaken to all the matrix.
Because it's interesting, because once you wake up, it's like you can't ever go back to sleep. But it first started, so I would say like my fitness journey and just being involved in the fitness community started when I was a little kid. Like I have vivid memories of going to like the gym with my mom, and they had little, this was in the 80s, and exercise was a thing, and kind of watching her from the glass. And then as I got older, she eventually started teaching fitness and just bringing me along. And, I started doing like through when I was at college at Indiana University, I would sign up for yoga classes and kind of just dabble in it. And then when I was at Indiana University, I had the opportunity to intern in Hawaii, at this little place called the Kilauea Military Camp that's right inside the national park. And I went back and forth, and I wanted to move there. It was my plan. I was going to move to Hawaii after graduation, but I had this gap year where I graduated college. I wanted to take time to save up and move to Hawaii properly. So I moved back in with my parents, and all my friends were kind of gone from our hometown. And it gave me just a full year to be home. And like, cause my parents are like my safe space, you know what I mean? I'm really fortunate in that sense.
Beautiful.
And to be home and connect with myself. And I started doing a lot of yoga. I was going to the gym a lot. I was teaching, not teaching, but I was going to a lot of Zumba classes because I love to dance and move and listen to music. And right before I moved, my mom, because my mom also taught Zumba, she's like, hey, there's going to be a certification at the gym. Before you move to Hawaii, you should get, certified to teach Zumba and teach Zumba over there. And I was like, okay, why not? And so I did that. And then I moved to Hawaii, and I was on the Big Island, on the east side of the island. And I just started contacting gyms and studios and said, hey, I just moved here. I teach Zumba. There's not any Zumba classes here. I'd love to teach a class at your space. And before I knew it, I was teaching to, 50 plus women coming into my class and just dancing and moving together and just having such a fantastic time. Like it was amazing. And at the time I was like the only class in this town. And I just started teaching like 7 to 12 classes a week, and all over the east side in Hilo and if you're familiar with the Big Island, like Hilo, Ka'au, Volcano, that whole like east side of the Big Island, I was teaching all kinds of Zumba kids, Zumba toning. And then I had my first baby. I got married, had a child, and I had a very traumatic birth experience. I had preeclampsia and HELLP syndrome, and those types of things. There's close to a 25% mortality rate when you have things of that nature. And I was medevac to a different island, and it was extremely scary. Luckily, my son is perfectly healthy. But then after that, when you go through a traumatic experience, usually there's something that's going to come into your life, right? And that's when I found Booty Yoga. A friend of mine was like, hey, because Busy lived on the west side of the Big Island.
Oh, wow.
So that's how, so it was kind of like the Big Island was like almost like the birthplace of Booty Yoga. And my friend's like, you should try this. I think you'd really enjoy it. And it was just like, after I went through such a traumatic experience, and I found Booty, and it was like, whoa, this is like soul shattering, because it like fuses the music and the yoga and the dance and all those things that I love, and kind of like put them in together. And it really molded that mind, body, spirit experience. And it was just amazing. Beautiful. And so a couple of years later, I got certified in that. I started teaching that. And I was living in this little town, right outside the Volcano National Park. And I got in with a community center and started teaching booty yoga there, 3 times a week. And I really got this lovely group of women together that we would come and share sacred space and connect and move and just have that energy flowing together. It was a really like magical experience. And then unfortunately, I suffered a miscarriage through that time. And then I did get pregnant again. And because I was high risk again, I decided, I'm not going to teach during this time. And I did get preeclampsia again. And then I was on bed rest. And 10 days before I gave birth, I missed the bottom, like my last step. We lived in this little off-grid cabin. And you have to go outside to go into our like restroom. So it's going outside. It didn't turn the light on, missed the last step and broke my ankle. I'm on bed rest. I'm, suffering from preeclampsia really bad and just going down to like brush my teeth for the night. And I break my ankle, severely sprain my other ankle. And it was just like, oh my gosh, how could this, I can't believe this is happening type of thing. And we go to the hospital and they're like, yeah, this is one of the worst fractures you could have with an ankle. Cause like you have like, I guess, I don't know the extreme specifics, but you have like 3 main bones that connect your leg, like your foot to your leg. Right. And I broke all 3 of those. And they're like, the only way you can fix this is surgery. And I'm on a small rural island and I'm pregnant and high risk. And I saw a couple doctors and they're like, we're not even going to touch you right now. Like not even going to happen. Luckily, my mom like went into a random doctor's office one day and was like, my daughter broke her ankle. Nobody wants to mess with her. Can you help her? And they're like, yes, bring her in. We can help her. And so, and with the stress of that, I ended up having another emergency C-section. And it was like a Saturday night. I go in and have an emergency C-section. And then on Friday, I'm going in for ankle surgery. And it was like, from then on, like my life, my physicality, my physical life changed so dramatically. Because when you're pregnant, your wife has been pregnant quite a few times, like things stretch and grow and move. Right. Yeah, so it was like, I was already kind of it was a natural state being pregnant, but like your body's so different when you're pregnant. And then to go through such a traumatic experience, it's been 3.5 years and it's like, it's never going to be the same. So it was a really hard recovery. And then once I started feeling moving, I was like, I have to start teaching again. I was like, it's the only thing, like moving my body and instructing people and connecting with people. That's what like fuels my soul. Like that's what catches my soul on fire, is to just share, movement with people. So, and I was still certified to teach booty yoga, and it's a practice. It's not an easy practice. And so I was having a really hard time staying on brand, I guess you would say. Booty yoga is a brand, and I was just having a hard time with it. And I homeschooled my children, and I went to a random, like I didn't go very much at the time because I had a baby and, still healing from my ankle, and went to this homeschool meetup at the beach. And there was a mom there that I'd never met before. And I was like, hey, what's your name? And she's like, I'm Amanda. And like, we were both from Indiana. Oh, wow. And she taught yoga and she homeschooled her kids. And she's like, I'm a yoga teacher trainer. And I'm like, you are exactly what I need. I need to do a yoga teacher training. I'm ready to like make that step. And so it was like, just then, how God works. So, like we were just put together in that moment. And, and I did my 200-hour teacher training just so I could, break away and do my own thing, like teach my own practice, something that just felt natural to me because I was now, healing from a pretty traumatic injury. Like it still, I still suffer from it today. It still is always on my mind when I walk down the stairs and things like that. I feel it all the time. So, I was able to do my 200-hour teacher training. And when I was done, this was pre-COVID, I was like, I know I have something special to share with people. I'm going to start an online yoga studio. But, we're in Hawaii. We have no village, no family really there to help with our kids. I was homeschooling. So it was like, okay, let's put the kids in school, get the little one in preschool. The older one will finally go to public school. And we bought an old school bus. Cool. That my husband converted. I was like, I'm going to, we bought a junkyard for like $100 and they towed it up to our house and my husband gutted it and we put nice floors in and painted it. And so I could start filming classes and do an online yoga studio. And then COVID happened. And COVID, of course, is like the thing that I think everyone's lives, I don't know anyone who was like on a path and then COVID happened and it didn't turn them somewhere else.
Yeah. Right.
Like, it just turned me in a different direction. Cause now, my business plan was on hold because, I had plans, my kids were supposed to be in school. Yeah. And then, it was my son's first time in public school and he's home with me all the time, and I can't do what I was planning to do. Yeah. And now it's like I'm home and you have all this time on your hands. And then I am going to start. So I do want to start getting into, because now this is the time where I had that awakening where I woke up. And it really started happening 6 months before because my husband woke up before that.
Wow.
And it's like an experience when you wake up. I don't know if anyone else has had this experience, but this is how my experience was. And I can tell with my husband too, is like, once you wake up and it's like your eyes are open, you want to scream and like shake everyone around you. Like, wake up, wake up. Like, this isn't real. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I was an NPR junkie. Like, I loved, because I also was like, I need to be informed. Yeah. How can I be informed? Like, who can I, like, I had this idea in my head that NPR was the unbiased, telling me everything going on. Like, that was it. NPR was where I got my info. And I would listen to them in the car when I'm doing my dishes. Like, it was literally NPR, like, almost all the time.
Wow.
So I was like in it, right? Mm-hmm. And my husband woke up before me and he was, I can see now looking back, like he would be like, you should look into this, or look at this going on. And I'd be like, dude, NPR said it's something totally different. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just, a straight white privileged male. Right.
Right.
And now it's like, I can't believe I said that to my wonderful husband, but we were in a constant just bicker, like all the time. Like, he would try to bring things to my attention. Like, did you hear about this? Did you see this? And I was like, dude, if this was real, NPR would tell me, right? Like, if this was real, they would tell me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And he's like, no, but it's not, they're not telling you the truth. They're not telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was to the point where like it could have ended us. And like at that time we're married now for 11 and a half years, and it's like, and we were brought together, like our souls were meant to be together. Right. So it was just like, and this was the thing that could have ended us. But luckily, as two people that are in love and married, it's like, we would have these arguments in the morning and then he would go off to work. And it was this weird thing, like we'd both stew on it all day.
Yeah, right.
And then finally it's like, okay, we need to not stew on this. Let's actually like get together and talk about it. And that was really the thing that, I was kind of starting to crack, like maybe he is making sense. And then, COVID happened. And so I had always believed all the lies that I was told about, I don't want to make this political, but I was always told,
you can make
I was always told all the lies about Trump, and I believed all of them.
Yeah.
And it started like when COVID happened, and the first thing that kind of made me be like, this isn't making sense is when he like shut down, because we were in Hawaii. And it was one of those things is like when COVID hit, I was like, I'm on a rural island. We have limited medical resources. We have people from all over the world coming here. And it was kind of like so much of an unknown. It just kind of like made me nervous. And so what did he do? He like shut down travel to China. And I was like, oh, good. Like I felt a little safer as someone on an island with, people traveling from all over the world. I was like, okay, great. That makes me feel better. And then the reaction that happened, like he's this terrible person. He's all these things. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense for him to do that.
Right.
And then when they started locking everything down, and for me, another thing was the mail-in ballots. It just like everyone mailing in ballots. I was like, man, like there are so many up in the air things that can happen with a mail-in ballot. Like, and I just thought of on the Big Island where I was a couple years before, we had a really big volcanic eruption. And so it literally like Kilauea erupted in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So you have people who literally just fled the island and left. And it was like, that was it. They're gone, like hundreds of people, probably close to the thousands.
Wow.
And my initial reaction was like, okay, they're mailing out all these ballots. How many people never change their address or their voting registration from that incident? How do we, like, what's happening to those? And it just kind of made me think. And I was, not a Biden fan during the primaries. And then when he became the, primary candidate, I was just like, like, I don't like this guy. I'd always heard rumors that Obama and Biden, that it was just a terrible administration, but I'd never knew anything about what it was. Cause I thought if they were so bad, NPR would tell me, right? Like that's where my mind is.
Yeah.
So my husband is still kind of awake, and he's just like, there's other things happening. You should, start looking into Obama and what they did. And the thing, and I don't know why, but the thing that literally like woke me up, like made me open my eyes, was my husband showed me a video of like the congressional hearing of them just investigating if the Obama administration spied on the Trump campaign. And I don't know. And I think the reason why that was the thing for me was because as an NPR fanatic, I listened to 2 years of Russia, even though it didn't turn out to be real. Even if this was real or not, this was so big, I feel like I should have known. And I was like, how do I not know this? Like, and then it was like, what else are they not telling me?
That's right.
And that was it. I was like, and it literally shattered my soul, because I had, you have these events that are happening around the world, and it formulates who you are as a person in a way. It's like how, you see something happening. How can I make the world better or change things or do something? And I was given a narrative that was not real. And it just like shattered me. Like my whole adult life had been a lie. And when you wake up to that, it's just like, it's soul shattering. Yeah. So I then, unfortunately, I would not say unfortunately, I then deep dive into some deep, dark.
Hey, bring it on. I've gone down a mile.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sure you have, like, if you know, those deep, dark holes.
Yep.
And that was when I was like, I need to get right with God,
Yep.
And at the time I was always a spiritual person, but the word God was like, never felt, I don't know what it was. And I was like, I can't believe in God. I believe in the universe. And then it's like, wait, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
For one thing. Yeah. But I was like, I need to get right with God. That's one of the reasons I love your podcast, is because the way you talk about the Bible and you interpret it the way you do, it just, I connect with that. So I really appreciate that. That helped me through that.
Gives me chills. Thank you.
Soul shattering experience. You know what I mean? And at the time, I was so scared to speak out because I knew how everybody was talking about the narrative and how you were treated and how, because I felt that about people who, you know what I mean? And it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I felt that way. And then finally I'm not sure what it was, but it was something, I remember something really violent happening. There's so many violent things that happened in 2020. I don't remember which one was the one,
right? But
something like violent happened for me. I decided to make a Facebook post about how, we've become a mindless society. So when you think of mindful and mindless, when you're mindless, you react automatically. It doesn't matter what happens. Something happens, you react right away.
Yeah.
And then when you're mindful, you take the moment to step back, assess the situation, and take the time to process before you form your opinion on it. Right. And so I was like, we're in this mindless situation, mindless society. People aren't being told the truth. The Democrats are doing a lot of things that I don't think people realize what's going on. And I was like, the Democrat Party left me. I'm still standing here. I'm still who I am. I still, have my views of pro-choice and those types of things. But they were doing things where they left me. And I was like, where do I go from here? And then it was like, from here, I've realized that I've been lied to about Trump. And I think, I might be voting for him. And it wasn't anything crazy. It was just we're being lied to, guys. And what? Not everything you've been told is true.
Totally. And to interject for a sec, I didn't vote for him in 2016, but I voted third party. So I've always been a very libertarian. I'm a constitutionalist.
Yeah.
I'm more the Declaration of Independence than the constitutional, but I obviously, that I love the written word. So I studied the Bible and I studied the Constitution. I studied the Declaration of Independence. I studied Thomas. Oh, did I freeze again?
I think you're good now.
Okay. Oh, good.
Okay.
What's going on with Zoom? Who knows? They don't like me talking about the Constitution. But Thomas Paine and the founding fathers and just all that stuff. So I didn't vote for, I thought, and I believe the narrative that Trump was a narcissist, and I grew up with a narcissistic sociopathic parent.
Right.
And I also had a hard time with masculine energy because I was very comfortable with feminine energy my whole life. I felt safe with women, but men were I was always attracting these abusive men in my life constantly until I had to break that, knocking on my door. Hello, wake up to heal within. However, same thing, similar to you. I wasn't anti-Trump. I didn't care. I just and I told my wife, I was like, I think it's important someday that we'll be able to say we didn't vote for him. This is before I understood what was going on. And when COVID happened, and I was already working from home, but I was working from home. And I'm like, I'm so sick and tired of listen, because I've been in the newsroom. I was a journalist. I know these people. I would never name names, but I know at the highest level at CNN and at ABC and at NBC, I have friends.
Right.
So I just know the whole situation. So I'm like, I'm going to watch these press conferences. I did not miss a press conference of Trump from March 12th was his first press conference all the way till May, the end of May. And I missed one day and I continued it through the summer. I watched every single press conference. I would rearrange meetings just to watch because I wanted to know what he was saying versus what I was told he was saying. Because I remember early on when I watched that one speech, I think it was his announcement speech, and he talked about rapists coming from Mexico and all these things. And people were like, he's racist. I'm like, well, I listened to the whole thing. That's not what he was saying. But, I was already like, I know how the news works. Okay, they're just retarded.
Right.
But when I saw his patience, This is what changed everything for me.
Right.
Because I'm getting angry at these reporters and these journalists listening, and he just held space.
Right.
Held the space. This man can hold more space. He can actually he's holding space for the whole planet. I don't even understand the consciousness of his soul.
Right.
But these people were so nasty, and he just stood there, no energy to retaliate. If he wanted to, this is everyone listening. If he wanted to, he could have killed every single political enemy in this country in the snap of a finger. If he is what everyone thinks he is, everyone who has spoken ill of that man would be dead. But he's not.
Right.
So then I would watch the reports later of the press conference, and it was completely a different world, different realm, nothing of what I with my own eyes. And I started telling people this. They're like, what are you, a Trump supporter? I'm like, look, I didn't. And this is when it became important that I was able to say, I didn't vote for him the first time.
Right.
I need to listen to him and not what people say about him.
Right.
And anyway, so I had a very similar experience with that. So please, I don't mean to hijack, but I'm just tracking.
No, totally. It's, and I know we are not the only ones who had that experience. Cause like right after I kind of started waking up, I found this movement called the walk away movement. Mm-hmm. And it was literally just a bunch of like former Democrats just walking away from the Democrat Party. And I like was like my safe space. I was like, other people get it. Yeah. Because you also, what I went through is, you know, you want to scream at everybody. Now it was like, you're getting into arguments on the internet all the time. And it's like, and it's by the end of 2020, I was like, this is such a terrible space. I'm not going to change anybody's minds. Nobody else is going to change my mind. I know what I believe. And it was just like, I'm awake. I can't unsee what I've seen. And now the only way to move forward is to live by example is what I try to do now. So like my 2021 New Year's resolution is like, I'm not going to argue with anybody about politics over the internet. I will have a conversation with someone in person, but I will not argue over the internet because it doesn't do anything. So now it's like, I just want to live by example, treat people how I would want to be treated, you know, show love to people. When things do pop up organically in conversation, I'm not afraid to say what I think. And I've also realized that, you know, I'm not responsible for other people's triggers. So if someone doesn't like what I say, that's not my responsibility. And unfortunately, I took a really big business hit because now it's like when living in Hawaii, it's 75% Democrat, right? Like that's why, you know, in 2016, I was like, well, I'm voting third party because it doesn't matter anyways. You know what I mean? And so when I did start speaking my truth, I was now like, I used to be this supported, you know, I had a community around me and people that I could share movement with. And now they were like, peace out. You're disgusting. You're a racist. And I'm like, I'm still the same person I was before, you know, I'm just aware of more things now. And,
but isn't it interesting that you represented the NPR version to them? You see how what happens is humanity can easily pedestalize. I want to say that's a word. I don't know if it is, but like make the pedestal, like NPR was your pedestal and you to it. You were their pedestal and they listened to you. And when that gets fractured, it's fascinating what happens, right? NPR is not a person. So you didn't like have a visceral, like, articulation to them, but you had people have a visceral articulation to you. And it's fascinating that fracturing and what people do with it.
And so now it's like, now that and then what another thing COVID made me realize is like being in Hawaii might not be a sustainable place to be. Cause it was like the COVID lockdowns were very harsh. Like still restaurants are still pretty much closed down. Everyone's masked. And, and we decided, like, my husband and I was like, well, maybe it's time after 15 years here. Like, we created a life, but if something happens, like, let's say the ports go down, you know what I mean? Oahu has enough food on that island to last the island 3 days if they don't have shipments come in.
That's right. Every grocery store has 3-day food supply. This is what people don't understand. I paid my way through college. So I worked the grocery store for years. And
that's what I did through college as well.
Oh, you did? So,
as a cashier,
every grocery store has 3 days food supply. So the people that think like, oh, I'll just go to the grocery store, I have a year's worth of food supply. Like, I'm not messing around. I'm not, in fact, not even for prepper, just to understand, I'm not going to be in the chaos. I'm not going into that freak out mode with everyone else. I'll sit back. You guys can freak out. And then I'll, but anyways, yes, 3-day food supply for sure.
Yeah. And then imagine being in the middle of the ocean, and it was just like, we can't do this anymore. And it was getting, inflation has grown already, but Hawaii was already expensive. And it's like, this is just not sustainable. And, we wanted to go to a more conservative state, and my parents just made it really easy for us. They're like, we have a place for you to stay. We got a vehicle you can buy from us. And, my cousin was like, I'll give your husband a job. And
cool.
It was just like, okay. But then also when I look back, when you have kind of that like soul shattering experience, I just my soul was like, you need to go home. Was how I felt. It was like, go home. Even though Hawaii was my home for so long, and it will always have a special place in my heart. And it was where my husband and I feel like our souls were meant to connect there so we could heal from things, so we could move on and come back here for a better life. And it was finally that was the catalyst to be like, it's just get your butt home, And now that I'm here, my parents are helping supporting my children. My husband and I can actually connect as a married couple again. We'd been married for 11 and a half years and had never went on a vacation, just the two of us, ever. So one of the first things we did when we got here is we planned a trip. And for our anniversary this year, it was we had 4 nights without the children. That was the first time ever. And, it was so needed. When we decided to move, it was our 10th anniversary. And I was the last 10 years we've been focusing on our kids and growing together and growing our family. And now let's take the next 10 years and reconnect as two souls that love each other.
That's so cool.
And so having the opportunity to do that is amazing. And then to be able to finally start my business. It was something that unfortunately had to get put on hold for COVID, because now I was homeschooling versus distance learning. They are two different things. I homeschooled for years, but then to be in the rigid schedule of distance learning, it was so hard on us. It was tough. And my son is dyslexic, so going through that was also tough.
Which means he's going to be a really amazing person.
Well, he is. My older son, both my children are amazing, but my older son, because he's almost 10, he is such a special kid. His brain works a little different. He builds these amazing things, and he's creative and just.
Have you ever read Malcolm Gladwell's David versus Goliath book?
I have not. No.
Okay, this. You read it, you will love it. And it's the advantages of disadvantages and the disadvantages of advantages. And he goes through the whole data set. And I forget the numbers, but most successful people are dyslexic.
I can see that.
And because they have to think, and they're always thinking a different way to overcome and process. And but not every successful person is dyslexic, but most dyslexic people are successful. And he goes through the whole data set. It's really a cool book. Very encouraging too, when we feel like, whoa, why is this happening to me? No, actually this is happening for you.
Right.
You're going to be an incredible human.
Well, and luckily when we figured it out, because my husband is dyslexic and his dad is dyslexic as well. So we knew it runs in the family. And so I'm in like a dyslexic parents forum. And a lot of the parents are like, how do you tell your kid that, he's dyslexic and all this stuff? And I never had that, like that negative connotation to it. It's like, dude, you're dyslexic. Your brain works differently. And that is awesome.
Yes.
Like, that's like how we put it.
Yes.
And he never has felt bad about it. Like now that this year is the first time he's really in school because we distance learned all last year. Mm-hmm. And before that, we homeschooled. So this was his first year of actually being in a real school setting. And he has just excelled and thrived, which I was really nervous because I know, he doesn't read as well and his spelling is hard on him. And I'd ask him, and I'm like, well, how does it make you feel when you have to go into the other room for different spelling tests? And he's like, whatever, it doesn't bother me at all. And it's like, well, I must have done something right because he's so amazing. He's so amazing.
Beautiful. I want to come back to this concept of God and getting right with
God.
Where are you at now with that whole concept, and what does that actually mean to you and for you getting right with God?
So I guess it wasn't like I was a bad person or anything, but it was like, I wouldn't say getting right with God. I should have actually said like strengthening my relationship with God. Because before, so after I had my first son, and it was a pretty traumatic birth experience, I just put that trauma in a box and put it away. Yeah. Right. I just was like, it's going to go over here. I'm not going to worry about it. And when he was about 3 years old, a friend of ours in our little friend circle, him and his girlfriend ended up getting pregnant. And cause we were the first friends out of our friends group to have a kid. Yeah. And then after that, my son was about 3. And then something finally sparked in me. Like, I wonder if I could have another kid. I never looked into what happened to me. And I took that box out and I had to like reopen that trauma. Yeah. And it was a lot to heal from. And I ended up seeing a therapist, and she was like, whatever your spiritual path is, just go down it. And
that's beautiful.
And at the time I was like, well, I don't have a spiritual path. I wasn't raised anyway. My mom was raised Catholic, but like really strict Catholic. So she kind of raised us to just believe whatever you want to believe. And I never thought about it, but I was like, I've always been interested in like paganism, like following the moon cycles and all that kind of stuff. So I really dug into that. Mm-hmm. And then once I finally like woke up, it was like, I was given this opportunity to not think of it as like this universal thing anymore. It was like, there really is a God. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. It was just like, I don't need to feel bad about saying I believe in God because, I was on this other path for a while, and I still, like to follow the moon cycles and all that kind of stuff. But, now it's like, as long as I can get out in nature and take a moment to myself and pray and be a good person, teach other people, treat other people how I want to be treated is how I'm going to connect with God in that way.
Right. I love that. You just made me think of something. I've been playing with this for a long time. I'm going to write this down. So you said moon cycles, and part of the matrix is even the words that we call things. Like, this is one of the things I've been thinking about this for a long time. I don't have a full answer to it, but I know that there's something there, and I'm still trying to unpack it. Atheism has rewritten everything. They have uprooted the fundamentals that we've stood on, the foundations that we stood on, destroyed it, deconstructed it, eviscerated it. So much so that they were even willing to say that Pluto is no longer a planet. Like, oh, here's the planets. No, that's not a planet. Like understanding, and everyone listening, this satanic realm will destroy everything that you hold dear at one point or another. It will just like, no, destroy. Well, destroy. And what that does is trauma. That is trauma to, NBR. Oh, not the truth. Oh, destroy. But I've been thinking a lot about this, like Venus and Saturn and all the planetary systems. And I've said this even when I was leading Bible study for years, that the only three entities in our solar system named by God in the book of Genesis is sun, moon, earth. Those are it. That's it. Why have those never been renamed? If God is not real, first of all, why has humans never renamed them? In every society, wherever you go in the world, in their own language, it's sun, moon, earth. But all the other planets are named after pagan gods. So you make me think about this, pagan gods. Mars, god of war, Saturn, Satan, Venus, all these different things. So then I've been thinking about the days of the week. Like, what are we actually calling these things? What is the timeline that we step into on a day and we think, oh, Friday. So Saturday is Saturn day, Satan's day. Sunday, sun, obviously, sun, the worship of the sun. So there are sun cults and there are moon cults. And sun and moon cults have been fighting. Actually, they're two different lights. The moon is not reflecting the sun's light. The moon is its own light. It's a septic light. It's its own emission light source, which the Bible, which makes sense. We're told that it reflects the sunlight. It doesn't, because the Bible says that God created the lesser light to rule by night. So it's a different light structure. So you have Saturn day, Satan's day, Sunday. I'm not saying God named these. Somehow man has ascribed these meanings to these days. Sunday, moon day, then the twins day. Sun and moon, Tuesday, both become married to become one. Wednesday. Those two that become one produce Thor's day, the son of Zeus, the son of the sun. But Thursday is Thor's day. And I've yet to figure out what Friday is. Maybe it's like destroying it all. I have no idea. But all these things, you said pagan, and it's like, yes. And I would, Christians, whoever listen, like, oh, paganism. I'm like, no, it can or cannot be like, what I just said could be like, oh, that's horrible. Or it just is, or, it's all our perception of how we ascribe meaning to these things. But I think it's beautiful that you went down paganism and like looked at it all and learned it all. And like the earth is in itself a realm to be adored and loved and honored.
Right. Well, and the thing that is interesting too is living in Hawaii, like Hawaiian culture, they go by the moon cycles, and I'm not saying it's similar, but it is at the same time. It's like when you go back to, like deep ancestors, it's like we all kind of went with the moon cycles. We all noticed changes in the earth. And it's like, and that is God's creation. Like he's making the changes in the earth and all this kind of stuff. So it's like because when I did go down that dark path, I was like, oh my gosh, I am like, is this bad? Right. And it's like, when I'm studying paganism and stuff, it's like, is this bad? And you kind of are like, well, it's still that I don't know. It's like, well, what do I feel? How does following the moon cycle, how does that make my soul feel? And it's like, it does feel right. It doesn't feel wrong to me. And then you step back. It's like, well, God made the moon. God made the earth. God made the earth change its process. It's like, as we're going into fall and winter, it's like, that is a death. And like, when I think of paganism, one of the things that always comes up is like the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Right. So it's like, you have like babies, and then you have like the mother, which is kind of like the stage I'm in now. And then you come into the crone, and it's like our earth does this cycle. Like when we give birth in spring and things are becoming like, waking up again. And then you're in the height of summer and things are bright and beautiful. And then we have that death in the fall and in the winter. And that's like your time for introspection and, just coming into yourself and reflection and that sort of thing. So that's really what the path that I was on. It was like taking just the cycles that the moon would go through, or that the earth would go through, and trying to live my life in that way.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Like in the spring, that's what I'm thinking about creating. And then in the fall and the winter, it's like, now I know I'm going to come inside into myself.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
beautiful. And I think everything comes down to intention.
Right. Exactly.
Everything. Like a firearm is a tool.
Right.
It can be intentionally used to harm or provide. A fork is a tool. Like everything comes down to intention. I don't need to go through a list of like things, but you get it. Like everything comes down to intention, and the observance or understanding of the universal laws, be it the lunar laws, the solar laws, the earth plane laws, like all these laws that exist, we can basically align ourselves to the order of what is, which was intended from the very beginning of time to be, or we can use the understanding of what is to build ourselves up. And this is where intention comes into play, which is like Christianity said all this stuff is satanic. Well, not necessarily. You're telling me that in fact, one of the largest mega church in Vietnam yesterday, the largest church in Vietnam, pastor got arrested for sex trafficking, child trafficking.
Yeah, that was based in, there was someone in Hawaii helping them. Yeah, that was on our local Hawaii news.
Gosh, okay, so let's take that example. Well, that's Christianity. Well, his intention is satanic because his platform to serve his evil desire. So everything's intentional. It's not, we don't throw the baby bathwater per se, which is, by the way, a horrible saying, but it proves the point. So anyway, I just love it. And I think, I'm not trying to hijack what you're saying. I just think it's a beautiful understanding of like fitting into what God ordained as the order of things and honoring it and being aware of it and saying, yes, there are times and seasons. The Bible even says there's a season to cry. There's a season to laugh. There's a season to mourn. There's a season of joy. There's these seasons. And the Byrds, that 60s American rock band that was supposed to rival the Beatles, wrote, to everything, turn. There is a season, turn. That's from the book of Ecclesiastes. And that's the truth. There is a season for it all. Right. So I think it's just beautiful that you got into that rhythm and one thing I want to honor you, sister, and your husband, is it takes humility. I have a quote that says, there is no unity without humility. And when you said that you guys would both stew on it during the day, but then talk about it later, that right away I knew you have humility. Because the egocentric narcissist will destroy that which does not align and submit to its own idea. Right. But the humility says, right. Okay, I don't like it. In fact, I can't stand it, but I'll think about it. Right. And it took us to just both of us to step back and be like, also like, how can we talk about this better with each other and not make it turn in, to a big argument? Because we're both pretty stubborn people as well. So when you have two extremely stubborn people, but who just love each other so much, but I can see how this idea of like, if it was a different relationship, I can see how it can destroy a marriage, especially when it comes to, I was literally brainwashed with the narrative. Yeah. And when you're so in it, you refuse to listen to anything else, And I just credit my husband for just
not giving up on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so, but it was tough. And now it's like now our marriage is amazing after we, now that we're both awake and on the same kind of connection, and definitely it took some growth, and now we're here and it's great.
I love it. It's an incredible journey.
Yeah.
And you're just getting started. I just feel like your strength is growing, your voice being on a podcast like this, like sharing, it's only going to grow. And I'm honored to have you on and to hear.
Well, I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you so much for letting me come on and share my story and talk to your audience and, get out what I'm doing. So
yeah. And how can people find you and follow you and connect with you?
Yeah. So I am on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, although I don't do much on TikTok, under Sound Soul Studio. And then you can go to soundsoulstudio.com. You can sign up for my newsletter and you'll get a free 45-minute yoga class in your email right away. But then I also have an online library where I have a bunch of different yoga classes. And I like to say I take, it's not traditional yoga. I like to make music my forefront because for me, music is like what gets me out of my brain, and being able to move with music really just ignites that mind, body, spirit for me.
Love it.
And so that's what I like to create and what I like to share. And I did make a promo, so you can go on to soundsoulstudio.com and put in promo code GOLDEN for 30% off your first month if you subscribe. And then after that, it's only $9 a month. I wanted to be able to offer, quality yoga classes that have add a little spice to them and make them budget friendly, because I know how it is to not be able to go to a yoga class or go to a studio because it's just out of your price range. So,
well, I'm so glad you're doing this, and everyone, please go sign up, move and align and connect your body. This is the time. Coronavirus, COVID, all this narrative divided, and it divided those who need to go into the darkness, and it divided those who are going to choose the light. And eventually we're all going to realize that we're one beautiful human collective, and and
we need to just share love.
Yes, that's right. And for everyone listening, like, to connect and align your body right now and to waken up every visceral cell in your body and to move is everything, so that when the time comes, we don't stand in judgment, where we hold space and we're able to heal others and be the invitation. So everyone sign up for Jami's class, please, and support this dear sister. And Jami, thank you for coming on. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for
thank you.
It's amazing.
And you were such a big part of, my journey. So I'm just so honored to be able to be here and to speak with you. And because you really did, like, my soul was shattered after I woke up, and to be able to have your voice to help guide me, it was amazing. And I really appreciate you for that.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm honored, and I'll keep going. And everyone, listen, this is the last podcast I'm doing. I don't know if you're watching on YouTube. Obviously, you can see that my gallery wall has been removed because we are moving. So this is the last podcast that I am recording in the state of Washington, and I'm glad to really cap it with your story, and it's really beautiful. So thank you, dear sister.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Dear sister Jami, again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your amazing story. It's just beautiful. And thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. And now you're part of mine. So thank you so much. And brothers and sisters, thank you all so much. I just bless you all. I bless you all. I just know that good things are coming. Truth is coming. The matrix disillusion is here and happening. And darkness cannot contain light, nor is it a counterforce to light. It exists in the absence of light. So keep shining your light, keep shining brightly, keep loving people, keep holding space for others, and allow them that space to feel the lack of judgment and non-judgment from you so that they can come out of their shadows and heal and be free and look at other perspectives and actually look at the truth, because we can't heal the pain unless we're willing to look at it. And we can't walk in the light unless we're willing to understand that there is darkness and we get to choose. So I bless you all. Thank you for choosing light, love, beauty, and goodness. I am Lucas Mack. This is the Golden Rule Revolution, where inspiration and purpose come from treating people like people and nothing less. I'll talk to you on the next episode. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. For support in your journey, go to my website, lucasmack.com.